One of the strangest and most hotly debated mysteries on the internet. Bryce had just spent the summer with his parents in their home in Laguna Niguel, California, but now that the summer was coming to an end, it was time for Bryce to head back to Sierra College in Rocklin, California. Nothing could prepare them for what their son did 2 weeks later. Bryce's very close friend and roommate, Sean, and Bryce's girlfriend, Kim, noticed Bryce was acting erratically. Specifically, he was drinking a ton of hard. Also, Bryce began experimenting with a called, and so Sean decided he needed to get in touch with Bryce's parents. And Bryce would tell his mom that, look, Mom, I just broke up with Kim. It's a very messy breakup. That's why I'm over here. We're talking about it. And look, at this point, I just really want to go home. I want to go back to my apartment. About an hour and a half later at 1 a.m., Bryce called his mom back to let her know that he was home safe at his apartment. 10 hours later at 11 a.m., Karen received an automated phone call from her car insurance company, letting her know that roadside assistance had been used on their 2003 Toyota Highlander car. That was Bryce's car. And so Karen's totally confused because the last she spoke to her son, he was at his apartment. He was home safe. He did not have any car problems. And so she's thinking, did he get up early this morning and get into an accident and call roadside assistance? Or maybe last night he got into car problems and just didn't tell her about it, but they were minor. And so she calls Bryce, but Bryce doesn't pick up. And so she dials his roommate, Sean, and she says, hey, would you mind putting Bryce on the line? But Sean says, Bryce isn't here, and he didn't come home last night. This really shocked Karen and Mike. But then they thought, let's go into his bank statements because he has a credit card that we gave him, and let's see if there's any recent purchases that will allow us to track where he is. And his most recent charge was only a few hours earlier, and it was at a car repair shop in Buttonwillow, California. And so Karen calls the auto repair shop in Buttonwillow, and a man who worked there named Christian answered the phone. And so Karen asked him, have you seen my son? He's got red hair, he's got a tattoo on his arm. And Christian says, oh yeah, we saw him a couple of hours ago. He ran out of gas on the I-5 highway. He pulled into a rest stop and we drove to that rest stop and we gave him gas. And so Karen asked Christian, did my son indicate where he was going next? And Christian said, no, he didn't. But if you'd like, I'd be more than happy to just drive over to the rest stop and see if he's still there. And Karen and Mike are like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Would you do that? And so Christian hops in his car and he drives the 15 minutes over to this rest stop. And he's not really expecting to see Bryce in this parking lot. It had been almost 3 hours. But he pulls into the lot, and there is the 2003 Toyota Highlander with Bryce sitting inside of it. He's just sitting behind the wheel staring out into nothingness. And so Christian walks up to the driver's side and he looks down to get Bryce's attention, and Bryce kind of snaps out of it and looks up, and he's surprised to see Christian again. He rolls the window down and Christian says to him, hey, I just talked to your parents.